You are comfortably zoned in Alameda, California, with me, the Zigzag Man, and co-producer of the show and frequent guest of late, Sister Annie. Hey, how are you?
Hey, doing well. How about you, Zig?
Oh, I can't really complain. I went for a wonderful walk this morning with you, as a matter of fact, and we got to tramp around our old stomping grounds where we get to talk and think about the show and think about life and discuss stuff, and it's kind of fun for me, and I want you to know how appreciative I am for the meditative time that we can spend together, even though it's hard for me to say that.
Well, I had a really good time walking this afternoon as well, Zig.
Good. Puts us in the mood for this show, which I'd like to try to demystify cannabis a little bit for those of you who just need a little demystifying. And I am myself an imbiber and have been for many, many years, but initially not without the knowledge of anything, but just initially just getting high and all what that meant. And I didn't even know what getting high meant, but I did, and I'm glad I did, because years later, as the result, it took all these many years, because in the 70s, when Nixon was president, he commissioned a study of cannabis, and when it turned out that cannabis was good for you, it wasn't just a demotivator, caused some introverted thinking. Well, he put a kibosh on releasing that article because, for number one, the government doesn't really want you to think too much, and any nonconformity is against what they really want, and that all comes back to the basic world that we live in. So a lot of misconceptions about marijuana and its effect on we humans took place for a lot of years, and now we're coming to a point finally where there's, in many states, not only decriminalization, some states have marijuana legal for recreational use, but many, many more, included in the state that I live in, California, has led the way into medical marijuana. People are being treated. They're getting prescriptions at first, now recommendations from doctors in California that entitle one to have a card saying that they can buy marijuana for medicinal use. And I'd like to have someone with a lot more knowledge, not an expert, she likes to tell me, but a knowledgeable person on marijuana. Just talk a little bit about the different strains, about the effect and the medicinal part of marijuana. And I'm going to turn the microphone over to Sister Annie, and I'm going to shut up.
Okay, cannabis demystified. Well, you basically have three choices. You can buy yourself a cannabis sativa strain, a cannabis indica strain, or a hybrid. And hybrids is kind of where it's at these days. There are different cannabinoids and different percentages of those cannabinoids in each strain of marijuana.
Can I ask what a cannabinoid is?
I believe it's a type of protein, but I'm not sure exactly what a cannabinoid. I think it's a protein.
Okay, but there are different ones and different strains.
It's genetic.
Okay.
Yeah, it's at a genetic level.
Okay.
And actually, talking about genetic makeup, if you are going to hybridize, a clone is the only way that you can propagate the exact genetic makeup of a particular plant. There are websites that have a lot of commonly known strains, and I want to say they're in the hundreds.
The websites or the strains?
Probably both, but the strains, that there's hundreds of strains. People are creating new hybrids as I speak.
So that theoretically, if you suffered, for instance, from the effects of diabetes and malaria, you could take those two, you could plug in those two diseases and come up with, on the website, and come up with a hybrid strain that would best suit you for medicinal purposes. Am I correct?
For the most part.
Okay.
For instance, cannabidiol and THC, tetrahydrocannabinol, are both good for easing pain. Cannabidiol also controls certain cancers, while tetrahydrocannabinol slows inflammation. So in some instances, like I said, they both ease pain. Then you have CBCs, encourage cellular growth, stop the growth of bacteria. There's all kinds of, they've been able to locate all of these different qualities specific to the cannabinoids. So you can look for a particular THC. I guess they're counting it in milligrams. I don't know if it's milligrams. But when you go into the, I think it's milligrams. They actually have it down to a chemistry where it's a particular THC concentration, like 13.5, something like that, per THC, and that's going to be milligrams, I believe. And then you're going to have your CBD. If you have a high THC, you'll have a lower CBD, but you'll have a CBD number also, and oftentimes a CBC as well. Or CBN, CBN.
So you can basically go into a club, Harbor Bay, for instance, right here, very close to Alameda in Oakland, has one of the biggest clubs ever, and basically personalize what you consume, where you know in advance the type of effect you're going to get, not only from a medicinal standpoint, but some drugs are what they call working drugs. Some drugs are sit-around drugs, for instance, cannabis.
Actually, if you're going to be imbibing in the daytime, you want to go with a sativa, 100% sativa strain, or at least a sativa dominant strain. Indica is because that's
not. Yeah,
it's because there's because indica is going to make you sleepy. Indica is more of a nighttime. Indica or indica dominant. You could have a hybrid that's an indica dominant, but that's actually the perfect bud is the one that takes care of the pain but leaves your mind alert. I mean, that's the perfect combination.
Depending on whether or not you want an alert mind that moment. Some people smoke it so they can kind of zone out. That's comfortably at times. I hope you understand the pun out there, and at other times, uncomfortably, because you could be uncomfortable too. It modifies whatever you're feeling. Go ahead, sister.
So, and oftentimes the strains, the hybrids, their names will relate to a flavor, a color, or a smell. Some actually, smell very fragrant, have a floral quality, while others have more of a skunk smell. Some actually smell citrusy. Generally, your sativa dominant is going to be a cerebral high, but you'll still have a relaxing body effect, so you get some physical and mental relief. Examples of that are Mars OG, Headband, or Purple Trainwreck. And I've tried Trainwreck, so I can attest to it keeping me somewhat mentally alert.
Just
then
out of curiosity, what are we imbibing in today, or what did we this morning? Because it's very good, and I didn't catch the name of it when it suddenly came into my possession earlier in the week. Is it an up strain, or
I think it's a hybrid.
a hybrid? Okay, just so that I know.
Yeah, and it actually, I think it's indicadominant. So again, what I was saying before, that an even hybrid, a 50-50, is kind of the perfect balance, because you can, it'll go ahead and get rid of your pain, which is what the THC is really good for. Although the CBDs are good for some pain. They're good for the blood, for decreasing blood pressure, vessel walls, and also reducing the risk of nerve damage.
Okay.
Just some little interesting tidbits in there. So CBDs are good too. An example of a 50-50 is Blue Dream or Purple Diesel.
Purple Diesel, I've
You've heard of that
experienced, yes, firsthand.
Yeah. Very good. And then with indicadominant, it's gonna make you fall asleep a lot of the time. It's a full body pain relief. I know people who are suffering from different types of arthritis, mostly in their articulated joints, their knees, hips, shoulders, that sort of thing.
What strain would you recommend for those people?
Well, they were telling me that in this particular instance, this gentleman who was part of a club, that he needed an indica-dominant strain, that his body pain didn't really respond to a sativa-dominant or a cerebral high. There's different kinds of pain. That's what a lot of people don't understand, I think, at first. But pain is a mentally conceived sensation. We have to think of it when we feel it. We have to cognizantly think about it. So if we're not thinking about it, we can endure. That's kind of where the head cerebral high comes in. So if you have a good sense about you, your pain isn't bothering you quite so much. It's about how your impression of pain changes. You just don't. It's not that it gets rid of the pain so much. With the indica-dominant, it is that it gets rid of the pain. It's more of a body relief.
Oh.
So, I think for arthritis, that having a combination of the two really is a good balance, though.
Beautiful. Hey, we're helping to demystify cannabis for the world, and thanks for being on, Annie. You're a delight.
Well, thank you, Zig. I'm glad I can help educate out there.
You certainly have educated me.
We need to smoke responsibly.
Absolutely. And what would be the first way? What would you tell people about driving stoned, and which strains to particularly avoid? Sometimes you just can't help it. But what if you particularly? Let's hope everybody is responsible.
Exactly. But I would say an indica. You don't want to be driving if you're smoking indica or indica-dominant. You need to,
Right.
That's like drinking and driving.
Good.
If you're getting yourself really high.
And let me just say, you don't want to be smoking anything and driving. But especially indica.
Especially indica.
Good. If we've helped the world that way, tell your kids to stay away from recruiting stations, smoke only indica if they'll be operating the family car, and keep on keeping on. Thanks a lot, Annie.
Thanks, Zig. Actually.